YB tell everybody to clear the room. And YB look at me. I never said this online. And YB like, yo, all right, let's fight, nigga.
And you wanted to fight YB one-on-one.
DJ Akademiks just got his handed to him by NBA Youngboy, and the leaked footage got the whole hip-hop world going absolutely insane right now. We talking about AK flying all the way to Utah, walking into NBA Youngboy's crib thinking was sweet and that he was there to do an interview. But what happened next had grown men in tears and exposed the dirtiest secrets about how this slimy industry really operates behind closed doors. This footage shows the moment Youngboy told his whole crew to clear the room, looked AK dead in his eyes with tears streaming down his face, and said some that's about to change how you see both of these forever. I'm talking about backdoor blackballing and how the same people who built you up will tear you down the second it benefits them. Y'all are not ready for what I'm about to break down. This goes way deeper than just two people having beef. This exposes how the entire industry tried to destroy one of the hottest rappers alive and how loyalty died in broad daylight. Let me tell you exactly what went down in that Utah mansion and why everyone's scrambling to get back cool with Youngboy and meat ride him now that he's undeniably the king of this rap game. But to under that, we have to break down how the industry tried to cancel YB, how the industry tried to cancel Youngboy. Before we get into that emotional Utah confrontation, y'all need to understand the bigger picture of what was really happening behind the scenes. This wasn't just about AK and Youngboy having issues. This was about an entire industry conspiracy to blackball one of the most talented rappers of this generation, and it all revolved around Lil Durk. See, by 2023, the whole hip-hop industry had basically chosen sides in the Youngboy versus Lil Durk situation. And guess what? They chose Durk. We're talking about labels, media personalities, streaming platforms, award shows. Everybody was moving like Youngboy was persona non grata while treating Durk like he was untouchable. The crazy part is how obvious it was, fam. Youngboy would drop fire music, break streaming records, and still get ignored by major publications and award shows. Meanwhile, Durk would get features with every major artist, Grammy nominations, and all the industry support you could imagine. It was like watching a coordinated effort to erase Youngboy from the conversation, even though his numbers were consistently outperforming most of these industry darlings. DJ Akademiks, who had been one of Youngboy's earliest supporters,
how can I be all 100% in the industry and half of the shit these niggas be doing be fake? Y'all want to argue on live, and when y'all see each other, don't say they see each other.
Started moving different during this period. Instead of staying neutral or supporting the artist who had helped build his platform, AK began making moves that looked like he was picking sides, and in Youngboy's mind, AK was choosing Durk's side over his. This is where the fake really started to sting. Youngboy wasn't just losing industry support, he was losing people he considered family. People who had been there since day one were now acting funny, and AK's behavior was the most painful example of that shift. AK's Utah mission, what really brought him there. So here's what really happened in November 2023. DJ Akademiks didn't just randomly decide to fly to Utah to confront Youngboy. Nah, this was supposed to be business as usual. AK had reached out about doing a podcast interview with Youngboy, and since YB was staying low-key in his Utah mansion, they arranged for AK to come out there. This was supposed to be one of those exclusive sit-down interviews that AK is known for. You know, the type where he gets artists to open up about their personal lives, their music, their beefs. AK probably thought this was going to be easy content, maybe get some clickbait moments and keep it moving. But Youngboy had other plans, fam. See, all that hurt and frustration had been building up for months. Every time AK went on his stream talking reckless about YB's numbers, every time he seemed to take shots or show favoritism to his ops, Youngboy was taking mental notes. So when AK showed up to that Utah mansion thinking he was just there for a regular interview, he had no idea he was walking into an emotional intervention. The location itself is significant too. Youngboy's Utah spot is way up in them Gravedigger Mountains, isolated from all the industry politics and fake love. It's where he goes to clear his head and focus on his music without all the distractions. For AK to make that journey, flying across the country to one of the most remote spots in America, shows how important this conversation was going to be. When AK pulled up to that mansion, he probably expected the usual celebrity treatment, maybe some small talk, set up the cameras, and get into the interview. But the energy was different from the moment he walked in. You could probably feel the tension in the air because Youngboy had been waiting for this moment to address everything that had been bothering him. Section 3. The confrontation, when real emotions exploded. The room clears and truth gets exposed. When it was time to start the interview, that's when Youngboy made a move that caught everybody off guard. Instead of sitting down for a regular podcast conversation, YB looked around the room and told his whole team to clear out. We're talking about his security, his friends, his crew. Everybody had to leave. This wasn't about creating content anymore. This was about having a real conversation between two people who had history, and Youngboy wanted privacy for what he was about to say. AK probably realized at that moment that this wasn't going to be the interview he expected. That's when things got intense, y'all. Youngboy stared AK dead in his eyes, and this is where it gets emotional. Homie had tears in his eyes. Tears. We're talking about one of the hardest rappers in the game. Someone who's been through shootouts, legal battles, and industry politics, getting emotional about how AK had been treating him. "You've been supporting me since I was 16, Youngboy told him. Let that sink in for a minute. This man remembered when AK was one of the first people to really put him on, back when he was just a teenager trying to make it out of Baton Rouge. The loyalty, the history, all of that was right there in the room. But here's where it gets even more real. Youngboy told AK that he used to dream about being featured on his channel. Can you imagine that? The same dude who's now one of the biggest independent artists in hip-hop was once just hoping AK would notice his music and give him a platform. Youngboy broke down how much AK's early support had meant to him. We're talking about a young artist from Louisiana who didn't have industry connections, major label backing, or celebrity co-sign. AK's platform was one of the few places where he could get his music heard by a wider audience, and that support was crucial in building his fan base. Section 4. The betrayal, when success turned into sabotage. How AK's support turned into public humiliation. This is where the story gets really messed up, fam. Youngboy broke it down to AK about how the success changed everything. "Now that I'm rich, you started trolling and talking shit about me, and it hurt," he said. That's some real vulnerable energy right there. Think about it. You got someone who helped build your career, who was there when you had nothing, and then when you finally make it, they start tearing you down publicly. That's the type of betrayal that cuts deep, especially when it's happening in front of millions of people. The specific incidents that Youngboy brought up were devastating. AK had been going hard on Youngboy's album Decided To, tweeting that it only sold 35,000 first week. Now, anybody who knows anything about Youngboy's numbers knows that's cap because this man consistently moves units, but AK was out here trying to make it seem like homie was falling off. But it gets worse, and this is where AK really crossed the line. He went on his stream and said some really disrespectful stuff, that Youngboy was going to hell with King Von, and that nobody wants to hear peace music from him. He literally told this man he needs to get back to making devil music so he can sell 100,000 again. Imagine hearing someone you looked up to basically telling you to promote violence and negativity just for commercial success. That's not just disrespectful, that's trying to corrupt someone's artistic growth and spiritual journey. Youngboy had been trying to evolve as an artist, making more positive music, and AK was basically telling him to go backwards for the sake of numbers. The King Von comment was particularly foul because that's a sensitive topic in hip-hop, and AK knew exactly what he was doing when he said it. He was trying to get a reaction, trying to create content, but he didn't consider how that would affect someone who genuinely cared about his opinion, how AK chose sides in hip-hop's biggest beef. But the real issue that Youngboy had with AK wasn't just about the disrespectful comments. It was about the perception that AK was taking Lil Durk's side in their ongoing situation. And in 2023, that was a big problem because the entire industry was already blackballing Youngboy for Durk. Youngboy felt like AK was moving like he was Team Durk, and that hurt because AK was supposed to be neutral. As a media personality, AK's job is to cover hip-hop fairly, not pick sides in beefs. But from Youngboy's perspective, it seemed like AK was showing favoritism to his biggest op. This wasn't just paranoia either. The industry blackball against Youngboy was real and obvious. While Durk was getting Grammy nominations, major collaborations, and industry support, Youngboy was being treated like he didn't exist, despite having better numbers than most of these industry favorites. Award shows were ignoring him, major publications weren't covering his releases fairly, and streaming platforms weren't giving him the same promotional support. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Dirk was being positioned as the golden child of Chicago rap, getting cosigns from legends and being treated like he could do no wrong. For AK to seemingly join that narrative was the ultimate betrayal in Youngboy's eyes. This was someone who was supposed to be about the culture, about supporting real talent regardless of politics, but it looked like he was choosing industry politics over loyalty to the artists who helped build his platform. The timing made it even worse because this was during a period when Youngboy felt completely isolated from the industry. His own label situation was complicated. Other artists weren't wanting to work with him because of the Dirk situation, and now even the media personalities who used to support him were acting different. Section 6. Youngboy's live response when he fired back. The Instagram live that shook the internet. After AK made those disrespectful comments about the devil music and going to hell with King Von, Youngboy didn't just sit there and take it. Nah, homie went live on Instagram and responded with that raw, unfiltered energy that his fans love. The live session was emotional, fam. You could see the hurt in Youngboy's eyes as he addressed what AK had said. He wasn't just mad, he was disappointed. This was someone he had looked up to, someone he had considered a supporter, and now that person was publicly disrespecting him for content. Youngboy talked about how AK's comments affected him personally, especially the suggestion that he should go back to making violent music. He explained how he was trying to grow as an artist and as a person, but people like AK were trying to keep him in a box for their own entertainment. The live also exposed how isolated Youngboy felt in the industry. He talked about how people were treating him differently, how former supporters were acting funny, and how the whole situation with Dirk had created this environment where he felt like he was fighting the entire hip-hop establishment. But what made the live session so powerful was Youngboy's vulnerability. Instead of just going on an angry rant, he showed genuine emotion about how the betrayal affected him. He talked about the history he had with AK, the support AK had given him early in his career, and how much it hurt to see that relationship deteriorate. The response from fans was immediate and overwhelming. Youngboy's supporters flooded social media defending him and calling out AK for his comments. The hashtag started trending, and it became clear that this wasn't just about two people having issues. This was about a larger conversation regarding loyalty, industry politics, and how success can change relationships. When two men faced their truth, back to that Utah confrontation. The most heartbreaking part of this whole situation was watching the realization hit both of them about how far their relationship had fallen. Here you got Youngboy, one of the most successful young rappers in the game, reduced to tears because someone he considered a mentor had turned into his biggest critic. AK was sitting there face to face with the consequences of his actions. This wasn't just some random artist he was trolling for content. This was someone who genuinely looked up to him, who credited him with helping his career, and who felt betrayed by the very person who was supposed to support him. The conversation went deep into their history together. Youngboy reminded AK of specific moments when AK's support had made a difference in his career. We're talking about early interviews, social media posts, and platform opportunities that helped introduce Youngboy to a wider audience. AK had to confront the fact that his recent behavior had damaged a relationship that meant something to both of them. This wasn't just about business or content creation. This was about two people who had genuine respect for each other before industry politics and personal ego got in the way. The tears in Youngboy's eyes weren't just about the disrespectful comments. They were about the loss of a relationship that had been important to him. When you're dealing with industry politics and feeling isolated, losing someone who was supposed to be in your corner hits different. AK probably realized in that moment that he had crossed lines that shouldn't have been crossed. The person sitting across from him wasn't just NBA Youngboy the rapper. This was the same young man from Baton Rouge who used to dream about being featured on his channel. How real men handle their business. Now here's where this story takes an unexpected turn that got everybody confused. That emotional confrontation in Utah wasn't the end of their relationship. It was actually the beginning of them fixing it. Sometimes you need that raw, honest conversation to clear the air and rebuild trust. Fast forward to 2024, and these two are back cool again. AK is showing up to Youngboy's shows. They're talking on the phone regularly, and it's like that emotional meeting in Utah actually healed something between them. This is what real men do, fam. They handle their business face to face. They express their feelings honestly, and they find a way to move forward. That Utah meeting wasn't just about airing grievances. It was about two people who genuinely cared about each other finding their way back to mutual respect. AK realized he had crossed lines that shouldn't have been crossed, and Youngboy got to express how much much that betrayal had hurt him. The conversation allowed them to address the root causes of their issues instead of just trading shots on social media and live streams. The fact that they're back cool now shows that their relationship was always deeper than just business. When you got real history with someone, when you genuinely helped each other succeed, those bonds can survive even the worst conflicts if both parties are willing to be vulnerable and honest. How success made everyone remember Youngboy's value. But here's the really interesting part about this whole situation. The reconciliation between AK and Youngboy is happening at the same time that the entire industry is trying to get back cool with Youngboy. And it's not because they suddenly develop morals or loyalty. Nah, it's because Youngboy is undeniably the hottest rapper out right now. Think about it, fam. The same industry that was blackballing him for Lil Durk is now trying to get back in his good graces because his numbers are undeniable. We're talking about consistent chart toppers, streaming records, and a fan base that's more loyal than any other artist in the game. All those award shows that were ignoring him, now they're trying to figure out how to get him to attend. Those publications that weren't covering his releases, now they're reaching out for exclusive interviews. Those artists who were scared to work with him because of industry politics, now they're sliding in his DMs talking about collaborations. AK's reconciliation with Youngboy is part of this larger trend. When Youngboy was going through his legal issues and dealing with the industry blackball, it was easy for people to distance themselves. But now that he's proven his staying power and commercial success, everybody wants to be associated with him again. The crazy part is how obvious it is. These are the same people who were acting funny when Youngboy needed support, but now that he's clearly winning, they want to act like they were always in his corner. It's fake love at its finest, but it also shows the power of perseverance and staying true to your craft. When former enemies become public allies. The most visible sign of their reconciliation came when AK showed up to one of Youngboy's shows earlier this year. This wasn't just a casual appearance. This was AK publicly showing support for an artist he had been beefing with in front of thousands of fans who knew about their history. The optics were powerful, fam. Here you got DJ Akademiks, one of the most influential voices in hip-hop media, showing up to support NBA Youngboy at a time when YB is clearly at the peak of his powers. It sent a message to the industry that their beef was officially over and that AK recognized Youngboy's position in the game. For Youngboy's fans, seeing AK at the show was validation. It proved that their favorite artist's talent and success were undeniable, even to someone who had been critical of him. It also showed that Youngboy was big enough to forgive and move forward, which is a sign of maturity and growth. The show itself was probably emotional for both of them. AK got to see firsthand the type of crowd and energy that Youngboy commands, while Youngboy got to see that their reconciliation was genuine and public. This appearance also represents a larger shift in how the industry views Youngboy. When influential media personalities like AK are publicly supporting him, it makes it harder for others to continue the blackball campaign. It's like a domino effect. Once one person breaks ranks and shows support, others feel more comfortable doing the same. What this story really teaches us about loyalty and success. This whole situation between DJ Akademiks and NBA Youngboy is so much more than just two people having issues and making up. It's a masterclass in how the music industry really works, how success can change relationships, and how real loyalty is tested when money and politics get involved. The most important lesson here is about the power of honest communication. That emotional confrontation in Utah could have gone completely different if either one of them had let their ego take over. Instead, they both showed vulnerability and honesty, which allowed them to rebuild their relationship. But it's also a cautionary tale about how quickly people will turn on you when it's convenient and how quickly they'll come back when you prove your worth. The same industry that tried to blackball Youngboy is now trying to get back in his good graces because his success is undeniable. For AK, this situation probably taught him about the responsibility that comes with his platform. When you have millions of followers and your opinion can influence careers, you can't just say whatever you want without considering the consequences. The hurt he caused Youngboy was real, and it took a face-to-face conversation to repair that damage. For Youngboy, this whole experience probably reinforced his belief in staying true to himself regardless of industry politics. He didn't compromise his values or change his approach to get back in people's good graces. He just kept making music, kept building his fan base, and let his success speak for itself. The fact that they're back cool now, with AK attending his shows and supporting him publicly, shows that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we care about the most. When there's real history and genuine respect underneath the conflict, those relationships can be repaired if both parties are willing to do the work. This story is going viral because it's rare to see this level of raw emotion and vulnerability in hip-hop, especially between a media personality and an artist. It reminds us that behind all the personas and public images, these are real people with real feelings who are capable of growth and forgiveness. The leaked footage of this confrontation will probably be talked about for years because it captures a moment of genuine human connection in an industry that's often criticized for being fake and superficial. It shows that real relationships can survive even the messiest public feuds if there's genuine love and respect at the foundation. That's all for today, gang. This story has so many layers: the industry politics, the personal betrayal, the emotional reconciliation, and the bigger lessons about loyalty and success. If you want more exclusive behind-the-scenes drama and the real stories behind your favorite artists' biggest moments, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. The streets always got more stories to tell, and I'll be here to break them all down for you.